You weren't supposed to stumble on this by accident. That feeling in your chest right now, that mix of curiosity and unease, is not random. It's your own future self pulling you into a mirror that very few ever learn to step through. And once you see what I'm about to reveal, you won't be able to unsee it. Here's the paradox. Most people spend their lives trying to change the reflection without realizing the reflection isn't where the change happens. They polish the glass, adjust their pose, force a smile, yet the image stays the same, because the mirror doesn't lie. The mirror simply reports, and this is the trap. You look at your reality, the unanswered messages, the bills stacked on the counter, the silence where support should be, and you think, this is who I am, this is my limit. But in truth, the mirror is lagging behind you. What you're living is not proof of who you are, it's proof of who you were. That's why it feels like quicksand when you try to push harder, think more positive thoughts, repeat affirmations until your throat is dry. You're fighting the mirror instead of shifting what the mirror reflects. And the secret is this: the shift never starts in the glass. It starts in the one who looks into it. You were allowed in here today because something in you is ready to stop reacting to the reflection and start embodying the source. And when you do, the mirror can't help but realign. In the next breath, I'll show you exactly how the observer's secret works. Not in theory, but in the physics of your own consciousness. Because once you understand that your attention bends timelines, the way you walk through your day will never be the same. Think about what a mirror really does. It never argues, never negotiates, never creates something new. It only gives back what stands before it. Reality operates with the same principle. It's not here to punish you or reward you. It's here to report your frequency, your identity, your state of being. Now here's the hidden layer. Physics has already shown us something called the observer effect. The simple act of observation changes the outcome. On the quantum level, particles remain in possibility until a conscious observer interacts with them. At that instant, they choose a position, a form, a reality. Your life works exactly like that. Each day, you stand before an infinite mirror of timelines, possibilities stretching in every direction. But the reflection you see isn't random. It's collapsed by what you're being in the moment you look. Your attention, your expectation, your nervous system's signal. These are the commands that instruct the mirror on what to reflect. And this is where most people get lost. They think manifestation is about wanting harder or visualizing longer. They stare into the mirror, demand it to change, beg it to give them the image they crave. But a mirror doesn't respond to demands. It responds to presence. The observer shapes the reflection, not by shouting at it, but by showing up as a new frequency. This means that your external world is always a delayed portrait of your internal alignment. If you walk into your day with a scattered, anxious signal, the mirror will faithfully project situations that confirm that state. If you walk in with a grounded identity of coherence, the mirror has no choice but to reveal opportunities, synchronicities, and clarity that match it. Notice what this implies. You don't need to chase after outcomes. You don't even need to convince the mirror. You only need to become the version of yourself whose reflection can't help but look different. When you embody the observer who already holds the shift, the glass realigns in ways that feel almost magical. Though in truth, it's the most natural law of resonance at play. But here's where the real mystery opens. If the mirror only ever reflects, then why does it sometimes feel like life resists us? Like we're doing the work, but the reflection still lags behind? This is the puzzle that keeps so many seekers stuck, thinking they've failed. And in the next part, I'm going to reveal the exact myth that blinds almost everyone on this path. The false belief that makes people fight their reflection instead of transforming their source. When you see it, the grip of frustration will break. Here's the myth that keeps people circling the same reality for years. They believe the mirror is proof of who they are right now. They see the reflection of lack, of silence, of doors closed, and assume it means, this is me, this is all I can be. Hey, sir, but the mirror isn't truth. It's a delay. Reality isn't a live broadcast. It's a replay. What you see in your outer world today is the residue of yesterday's alignment, yesterday's fears, yesterday's version of you. And if you mistake the replay for the truth, you unconsciously lock yourself into repeating it again tomorrow. Let's make this concrete. Imagine you've sent a message to someone you care about. Hours pass. No reply. The silence grows heavier, louder, until your mind fills the gap with stories. They don't value me. I must have said the wrong thing. I'm not enough. And in that very moment, you're not observing neutrally. You're collapsing a timeline. Your nervous system spikes. your identity contracts, and the mirror takes a new imprint: rejection, abandonment, loss. But notice the trick. The silence itself wasn't rejection. It was a neutral reflection of timing, circumstance, or simply a lag in response. Yet by treating it as proof of unworthiness, you hand the mirror a distorted version of yourself. And soon, the outer reflection obliges. Distance grows, energy dims, the connection you wanted feels harder to reach. This is why the myth is so toxic. It convinces you that the glass defines you, when in reality, the glass is waiting for you to define it. And until you understand that the reflection lags behind, you'll keep staring into old images and mistaking them for your identity. Here's the pivot. When you stand before the mirror and witness it with awareness, not panic, not desperation, but the clarity of, this is just a reflection of who I was, you create space for a different imprint. You reclaim your role as the observer who shapes what comes next, rather than the victim of what has already passed. So the key isn't to argue with the silence or to beg the reflection to change. The key is to shift who is looking into it. To remember, the mirror is showing me the echo of who I was yesterday, but who I am right now decides the reflection I'll see tomorrow. And once you grasp that, something else becomes obvious. There's one crucial threshold you must cross before any new reflection can appear. It's not about mindset tricks or forcing positivity. It's about the hidden gate inside your nervous system. And unless you walk through it, the mirror won't budge. Here's what changes everything. The mirror doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your signal. And your signal is not your passing thoughts. It's the broadcast of your nervous system. Think of it like this. If your body is in survival mode, your mirror can only reflect survival patterns back to you. It's not personal. It's not punishment. It's physics. A dysregulated system sends out a fragmented frequency, and the glass simply projects that fragmentation. Which is why you can affirm abundance while staring at your bills, or chant love while trembling over silence, and still watch the reflection repeat old pain. The hidden gate is safety. When your system feels safe, your field becomes coherent. Your heart and brain move into sync, broadcasting a signal strong enough for the mirror to lock onto. Safety isn't weakness, it's stability. And coherence is what allows the reflection to reorganize itself around a new identity. Here's a micro practice you can try right now. It takes less than a minute. Close your eyes. Place one hand over your chest, the other over your lower belly. Inhale slowly through the nose for a count of 4. Feel the rise beneath both hands. Exhale gently for a count of 6, releasing pressure in your shoulders, softening your jaw. Repeat this 2 or 3 times, but with each breath send a silent instruction. I am safe to be here now. Notice how your body responds. Your pulse steadies. Your breath deepens. That tiny shift is not trivial. It's coherence beginning. In those 30 seconds, your nervous system moves out of survival, and your field begins to broadcast stability. And that stability is what gives the mirror permission to update. Because here's the overlooked truth. The universe doesn't hand over new reflections to a frantic signal. It waits for a coherent imprint. It waits for you to embody safety, to settle enough that your energy is consistent. Only then can the reflection crystallize into something new. This is why so many seekers feel blocked. They're trying to manifest from a place of urgency, fighting the glass while their system screams danger. The mirror only knows how to echo back what it receives. But when you learn to regulate your signal, to anchor in safety before you act, the entire feedback loop changes. And once you've tasted coherence, the next frontier opens. It's no longer about generating temporary states of calm, but about transforming the very identity of the observer. And that shift is far more radical than most people realize. Here's a subtle trap that catches almost everyone at some point: confusing a temporary state with a true shift in identity. A state is fleeting. You meditate, you breathe, you listen to a piece of music that lifts you, and for a few minutes, you feel expansive. But then the notification dings, the bill arrives, the silence stretches on, and the state collapses. The mirror responds accordingly, snapping back into the old reflection. That's because states are like flashes of light. They illuminate briefly, but they don't rewrite the film. Identity, on the other hand, is the projector itself. It decides which film runs, which frames get shown, which reflection repeats. If your underlying identity is, I'm the one who's always waiting, always scrambling, always unseen, then even when you visit a state of abundance or peace, the mirror defaults back to the identity you carry day after day. And here's where the observer's secret deepens. The mirror doesn't care about the highs and lows of temporary states. It calibrates to the baseline of your identity. That's why two people can try the same manifestation practice, and one sees results while the other sees only repetition. It's not because the universe favors one over the other. It's because one has shifted identity, while the other is chasing states. So the work is not to manufacture peak states over and over again. The work is to become the kind of observer for whom coherence, trust, and stability are not occasional experiences but default settings. When identity shifts, states follow naturally, and the mirror has no option but to reorganize around that deeper broadcast. Think of it like a costume you no longer wear. You can try to act differently for a few hours, but if you still believe yourself to be the character in the old costume, the reflection will reveal it. Only when you release the costume and claim a new role does the mirror begin to reflect a different figure back to you. This is why chasing quick fixes feels so exhausting. You're trying to outshine an identity that hasn't been rewritten. The truth is, once your identity updates, you don't need to fight for states. They emerge from who you are becoming. And here's the doorway we're about to walk through. When identity shifts, you don't just feel different. You enter an entirely different timeline. The mirror doesn't just change your reflection. It opens a new corridor of possibilities that weren't even visible before. But how does identity actually select timelines? And what happens when you step into one version of yourself over another? That's where we go. Every choice you make is like walking up to a hall of mirrors. Dozens of reflections stand before you, some radiant, some fractured, some dimly lit. Each reflection represents a different version of you, a different timeline already existing in possibility. But here's the hidden rule. You don't access them by wishing. You access them by identity. Your identity is the passcode. It's the invisible credential that tells the mirror which reflection to solidify into your lived reality. If you identify as the one who is always overlooked, the mirror won't show you the reflection of success and recognition, even if you want it desperately. It will faithfully project the timeline where your overlooked identity plays out again and again. But shift identity, even subtly, and the passcode changes. Suddenly, you're no longer resonating with the reflection of scarcity or invisibility. You're standing before a mirror that reveals opportunity, belonging, synchronicity, and it feels almost supernatural when doors open, when texts come through, when support appears, yet it isn't magic, it's resonance. Let's ground this with a simple scenario. Imagine you're preparing for a job interview. One version of you identifies as the candidate trying to prove they're good enough. When you walk into the room with that identity, the mirror reflects hesitation, shaky voice, awkward pauses, a panel that doesn't feel impressed. But another version of you identifies as the one already belonging in this role. That identity carries a baseline of trust. When you walk into the same room from that place, your answers land differently, your presence feels magnetic, and the reflection, the panel's response, shifts accordingly. What's critical to see here is that both timelines existed all along. The mirror didn't suddenly create them because you asked, it simply revealed the one your identity aligned with. And this doesn't just apply to interviews. It applies to relationships, health, creativity, every area where the reflection seems to either withhold or deliver. This is why the observer's work is not about forcing external shifts, but about choosing identity with precision. Because once you claim an identity, the mirror reorganizes itself to prove you right. Now here's the breathtaking part. Once you start living this way, you realize you've been walking through parallel timelines your entire life without noticing. The question is no longer, will it happen? The real question becomes, which version of me is doing the observing? And if that's true, then what tools can we use to anchor ourselves into the identity that matches the timeline we desire, without slipping back into the old mirrors? It's one thing to understand that identity selects timelines. It's another to live it day after day when old mirrors keep trying to pull you back. That's why I want to hand you a simple toolkit, a mini protocol you can return to whenever you feel the reflection dragging you into doubt. Tool 1, the mirror check-in. When you catch yourself reacting to what you see outside, whether it's a late bill, a delayed message, or a door that seems closed, pause and whisper, "This is the echo, not the truth." Just that sentence breaks the spell. It reminds your body that the reflection is lagging, and that your identity in this moment is what decides what comes next. Tool 2, the embodied claim. Identity isn't built by thought alone. It needs to be anchored in the body. Stand in front of an actual mirror, feet planted firmly, shoulders relaxed. Breathe into your chest and state aloud, "I am the one who already lives this reality." don't wait to feel perfect. Let your posture, your breath, your eyes teach your nervous system what it means to inhabit this identity. Tool 3. Timeline writing. Each morning, write one paragraph as if you were already living the timeline you desire, not as a fantasy, but as a lived diary entry. Today, I woke up already calm, already supported, already connected. This isn't about tricking yourself. It's about rehearsing identity until the mirror no longer has a choice but to reflect it. Tool 4. The coherence breath, anchor practice. Place your hand on your heart. Inhale slowly for 4, exhale for 6. Do this 3 times while recalling one moment in your life where you felt undeniable belonging. As your body softens, silently affirm, "This is my baseline now." This breath practice isn't about relaxation alone. It's about shifting your broadcast so that the mirror locks onto the frequency of safety and coherence. When used consistently, these tools transform your identity from a fragile state you have to remember into a living embodiment that carries itself. The mirror begins to reveal synchronicities so naturally that you stop asking, "When will it happen?" and start realizing, "It already is." And because this process strengthens through community, I want you to make a declaration here. Write in the comments, "I am already living my future." That phrase is more than words. It's a frequency stamp. As you type it, you're not only signaling to yourself, you're feeding the quantum field a broadcast that the mirror can't ignore. Now, once you have a toolkit in hand, the next obstacle emerges. The traps that sabotage most people even after they've tasted progress. And if you don't see them coming, the mirror will keep looping them back at you. Even with the tools in hand, there are 3 traps that almost every seeker falls into at some point. And each one has the power to distort your signal and pull you back into the old reflection. The good news is, once you can spot them, you can step around them with clarity instead of confusion. Trap 1. Urgency. Urgency feels like adrenaline disguised as focus. It whispers, "If it doesn't happen soon, it's not working." You start staring at the mirror, checking constantly. Has it shifted yet? Did the reflection change? But urgency sends out the signal of lack, not alignment. The mirror, ever faithful, echoes the very energy of "not yet." The antidote? Replace urgency with inevitability. When the identity is real, the reflection is guaranteed. You don't stand in front of a bathroom mirror after brushing your teeth and panic. Will the foam disappear? You trust the process. Treat your quantum reflection the same way. Trap 2. Split signals. This happens when you declare one identity with words, but broadcast another with your body. You affirm abundance, but your posture collapses under the weight of fear. You speak of love, but your nervous system signals distrust. The mirror doesn't respond to words. It responds to coherence, and incoherence creates a fractured reflection. To neutralize this, use the embodiment tools: breath, posture, presence. When your words and your field align, the mirror has no choice but to comply. Trap 3. Overcontrol. This is perhaps the most subtle. It shows up as micromanaging the reflection, forcing outcomes, demanding timing, scripting exactly how it must look. But the mirror doesn't respond to control, it responds to clarity. Overcontrol signals distrust, and the reflection obliges with resistance. The pivot here is surrender, not as passivity, but as trust that the mirror will reveal the identity you've anchored in its own synchronistic choreography. You hold the identity steady and let the reflection organize itself. These 3 traps, urgency, split signals, overcontrol, are like smudges on the glass. They don't erase the reflection, but they blur it, delay it, distort it until you believe nothing's happening. When you clear them, you realize the mirror was always listening, always updating, always aligning. You just weren't giving it a clean signal to work with. And once you learn to step around these sabotages, something profound opens up. You realize you don't need to set aside time to practice this work. Your daily life itself becomes the practice. Every conversation, every meal, every walk is an opportunity to broadcast the identity you've chosen. But here's where it gets truly life-changing. When you bring coherence into your smallest, most ordinary moments, the mirror doesn't just reflect back isolated wins. It starts reshaping your entire lived reality. The real turning point comes when this isn't something you do in rituals alone, but something you live in every small movement of your day. Because the mirror doesn't only reflect in the big milestones, it reflects in the subtle, ordinary moments. And those moments are where identity either holds steady or slips back. Take walking, for example. Most people walk with their mind elsewhere, thinking of what's missing, looping old conversations, anticipating outcomes. Their body carries a fragmented signal, and the mirror dutifully reflects more fragmentation. But when you bring coherence into walking, shoulders open, breath steady, steps deliberate, you broadcast a different field. Suddenly, the walk itself becomes a statement. I am the one who already belongs here. And the mirror responds with encounters, synchronicities, even chance meetings that match the new broadcast. Eating is another doorway. How often do you consume in a rush, scrolling your phone, already thinking of the next thing? That rush imprints urgency into the mirror, but if you pause, breathe once before the first bite, and eat with presence, you're signaling abundance at the most primal level. You're telling the mirror, there is enough. I am nourished. That small act recalibrates your field. Conversations, too, are mirrors. If you enter them from a defensive identity, bracing for rejection, expecting dismissal, the reflection confirms it. But if you enter with the identity of the one who already belongs, who doesn't need to prove, your tone softens, your eyes steady. The mirror of the other person begins to reflect a new version of you back to you. This is the integration secret. The quantum field doesn't care if you're in meditation or at the dinner table. It's always listening. Every moment is a broadcast. And the more consistently you broadcast identity in your ordinary actions, the faster the reflection solidifies into an entirely new baseline reality. And something remarkable happens when this becomes habitual. You stop asking, am I doing it right? The question dissolves. Because the mirror begins to reflect back confirmation after confirmation, so naturally, you barely notice the transition. One day you realize, the reflection has caught up. But here's the pivot. Once you see your daily life as practice, a deeper invitation arises. What if this coherence could expand beyond the personal, beyond meals, walks, conversations, into the larger arenas of your life, into your relationships, your creative power, even your health and purpose? That's where the mirror reveals its most radical gift. We'll step into that expansion. Once you begin carrying coherence into your smallest daily actions, the mirror doesn't just reward you with subtle shifts, it starts reshaping the larger arenas of your life. Because identity isn't selective, it radiates into every domain, and the mirror has no choice but to reflect it across the board. Take relationships. If your identity has been rooted in abandonment, every interaction is filtered through that lens. You overanalyze texts, brace for distance, expect withdrawal, and of course, the mirror obliges, confirming your fear. But shift into the identity of the one who is already chosen, already worthy of connection, and suddenly the same dynamics play out differently. You stop chasing, your energy steadies, and the reflection responds. People feel safer, more drawn in, more open. Creativity follows the same law. Many carry the identity of blocked or unoriginal. They sit in front of the page or canvas, and the mirror reflects blankness. But when you shift into the identity of, I am already a channel, already in flow, the reflection shifts too. Ideas surface, words pour through, inspiration meets you halfway. Creativity isn't forced. It's reflected back because you claimed the role. Health is another mirror. The identity of, I am fragile, always at risk, instructs the reflection to amplify symptoms, fatigue, fragility. But shift into, I am resilient. My body remembers balance. And the mirror reveals energy, recovery, vitality. This doesn't mean ignoring real challenges. It means meeting them from an identity that already holds healing as a timeline. And the reflection reorganizes itself to support it. And then there's purpose. Perhaps the most haunting question, why am I here? If your identity is the one still searching, the mirror shows you endless loops of uncertainty. But when you embody, I am already woven into a purpose larger than myself, the mirror begins revealing people, opportunities, synchronicities that confirm it. Let me ground this with a scenario you've likely faced. Imagine scrolling late at night, watching others showcase their wins, their travels, their perfect lives. Suddenly you feel small, behind, invisible. That identity, the one left out, commands the mirror to reflect more lack. The next day, you see more proof that others are ahead. But if in that very moment you shift, I am already on my timeline, already chosen for my role, the mirror begins to reveal synchronicities. Instead of comparison, you notice connection. Instead of envy, you feel momentum, and your outer life slowly begins to echo that choice. The expansion into these domains proves something profound. The mirror isn't limited. It has the capacity to reflect coherence across love, creativity, health, and purpose simultaneously. It was never withholding. It was waiting for you to step into the observer who already embodies the shift. But here's the most paradoxical discovery of all. The moment you begin to trust the mirror across every domain, you realize you were never shaping reality alone. Something larger, something orchestrated, is always moving with you. Up until now, we've spoken of the mirror as though it were a neutral mechanism, an impartial feedback loop reflecting your identity. And on one level, that's true. But when you begin to live this work consistently, another truth reveals itself. The mirror is not just glass, it's alive. There is a mysterious intelligence woven into it, a guiding presence that seems to anticipate your steps, respond not only to who you are becoming, but to who you were always meant to be. And when you sense this, something shifts inside you. You realize you are not pushing against reality. You are being escorted by it. This is where the paradox of surrender comes in. Most people equate surrender with weakness, giving up control, resigning to fate. But in the quantum mirror, surrender is the highest form of alignment. Because when you surrender, you stop projecting frantic signals of distrust. You stop distorting the reflection with fear. And you begin to allow the larger orchestration, the divine intelligence behind the mirror, to arrange things on your behalf. Think of how rivers carve valleys, not by force, but by flow. They surrender to gravity, to the natural course, and in that surrender, they shape entire landscapes. In the same way, when you allow your identity to merge with trust, when you surrender the need to micromanage outcomes, you open the channel for timelines far beyond what your limited mind could have scripted. And this is not abstract. It shows up in the timing of a message you couldn't have predicted, the chance encounter that alters your path, the opportunity that seems to drop from nowhere. Each one feels like coincidence until you realize its coherence. The mirror revealing that you were never manifesting in isolation. You were in partnership with something larger all along. The deeper truth is this. The mirror doesn't simply echo your identity. It responds to the part of you that remembers it is woven into the field of everything. That memory, that you were never separate, is the essence of surrender. And far from making you powerless, it makes you unstoppable. Because now your broadcast is amplified by the very intelligence that animates the universe itself. And so the work evolves from, how can I get the mirror to change, to, how deeply can I trust the mirror's orchestration? The more you release the grip of control, the more the reflection exceeds anything you could have forced, which leads us to the final revelation. If the mirror has always been alive, always waiting for you to remember your role as both observer and participant, then what happens when you fully step into that partnership? What does it mean to end this transmission with the clarity that your access has been granted and the mirror is already aligning? That's where we land in the closing. So here we are, at the edge of the mirror. You've walked with me through its secrets, how it reflects not your demands but your identity, how it lags behind, replaying who you were until you decide to stand as who you are becoming. You've seen how coherence steadies the signal, how daily life becomes the practice, how surrender reveals the divine orchestration behind the glass. And now I want you to picture this. Each morning when you rise, you are stepping before an infinite mirror. Countless reflections shimmer before you, waiting. Some show the old you, scattered, doubting, waiting for permission. Others show the version already living the life you came here to embody. The mirror does not choose for you. It waits for your signal, your identity, your coherence. Every breath you take, every step you make, every word you speak, it's all a broadcast. And the mirror listens faithfully, patiently, without judgment. What it reflects is not proof of your limits. It's proof of your last broadcast, which means at any moment you can shift the source. And when the source shifts, the reflection can't help but follow. You were not led here by chance. Something in you was ready to remember this truth. The mirror is not your enemy, not your test, not your cage. It is your ally. It is your stage. It is the infinite glass waiting to reflect the observer who finally knows who they are. So take this as your initiation. Walk forward with the knowing that the mirror is alive, that it bends to coherence, that it has always been listening to you. And if you're ready to anchor this now, declare it so the field can register. Share one old belief you're releasing in the comments. Your story may ignite someone else's timeline. Access has already been granted. The reflection is already shifting. Step into it.